Hey guys, Tisha here, and we are back for another Love and Marriage Huntsville review. This episode was actually very good, and we did find out some additional information. So we begin this episode with the trust fall exercise, but this one has a twist because they're pairing up people who aren't necessarily getting along right now. So first it starts with Stormy and Tisha. They don't complete the exercise. Then, despite Mel telling these people that she did not want to be paired with Martell, Nell tells her to go in front of Martell and fall. So that she stands in front of him. We get a 1, 2, 3 count, and Mel doesn't even try to fall back in his arms. She just falls to the ground intentionally in like a fetal position, and everybody laughs. There was really no point to doing this exercise because for those two, it didn't do what they thought it was going to do. We then see the same thing done this time with Martell in front of her. And he stands in front of her and says, "I'm your children's father. Catch me." If I was her, I would have done one better and I would have pulled the mat from under him. But that's not what she did. She just let him fall. With all the things that this man has done to her, we're not going to sit here and act like she should have catched him. I'm just saying. He says that she only let him fall as a way to like save face in front of other people. He's a little delusional here. Her letting you fall was her showing that she doesn't trust you and that you're not safe. So right after, we see the exercise repeated with Courtney and Marceau, and they catch one another. And then we see it done with Tisha and Stormy again. And this time, the both of them catch one another. Right after Tisha is caught, Keke shows up and walks in. Nell explains to everyone that she invited Keke there because Keke called in hopes of being invited as well as them all moving forward. Keke steps up and says, "Everybody who was at the barbecue at Kimmy and Maurice's house, I want to apologize for causing a disruption. Kimmy and Maurice," she says, "I did violate and disrespect your home. I apologize for that. It was about you, and I took that moment and I made it about me." Her apology is fair, but I do agree with Kimmy and Maurice later on when they said that she should have apologized to them prior to this, that at this point it's been a month and a half and she's just now apologizing. She then apologizes to Tisha for throwing the drink in her face and violating her space. Maurice said that he accepts her apology, as I said earlier, but it's been, a while, that he feels like she should have done it in that moment, as well as Kimmy. Keke admits to Kimmy to not knowing how to approach her, and she says that's part of the reason why it took her so long to just now apologize. And Kimmy says she feels like it's too long. So my thing is, just tell the girl that you don't forgive her instead of having her continue to talk. She's asked by Tisha if she accepts her apology, and Tisha says sure. Nell starts talking and crying. Tisha walks off. Nell says that she didn't want to make anyone feel out of place, and she just wanted everybody to be included. Tisha thought that they all agreed that what her cousin did wasn't cool, and she thought that they all understood like she didn't want to be around her, so now she doesn't get why she's there. Marceau and Chris go to check in on her, and she says that she feels played and betrayed because Mel knew that she was coming, and Mel and Nell knew that she was coming, and they should have told her, because when Nell was doing her whole spiel, she said that Keke talked to Mel and Mel said that she should talk to me and see about coming. But she didn't say that Nell didn't know. She just made it seem like she did. So I'm going to have to agree with Tisha on that one, that they should have told her. So Mel walks in the kitchen and says, I keep saying Mel, these Melanels. Nell walks in the kitchen and says, do y'all want her to leave? I told her that this may not go the way that she wanted it to go. I got a phone call from her and I felt bad. And even though I invited her and told her she could come, I really didn't agree with it. I know that she said she spoke to Mel and Fletcher was totally against it. And now me and Fletcher have been arguing about it. Marceau says, I really don't think that you all understand their relationship. We sure don't, because y'all have been very evasive about that situation. She says, Tisha does, that Mel is very aware of the relationship and she feels blindsided by her. Now, that would have been a perfect time for Nell to say that, for Nell to say that she feels like she got it wrong. She's not saying that she knew, but she didn't. She just kept going and say she apologizes and she says she's going to fix it. So Nels goes back in and basically tells Keke, like, you can't stay because some of the people here don't want you here. Stormy then speaks up and says, that's fine. It's okay. She's going to stay with us. Keke said, that's fine. I'm not staying in the house. Stormy says, you don't got to stay in the house, boo. You staying with us. Keke adds, but I'm most definitely not going to allow anyone to dictate where I can and can't go. Now, this is the problem with Keke, because Keke's energy is very off-putting when she doesn't get the response that she wants. Mel says, Miss Nell, you talked to Tisha. Did she say it was a no? And Nell said, pretty much. Marceau says, Mel, do you remember when you were having issues and you didn't want to be around certain people? Yeah, but y'all still were trying to put her around certain people, which was Martell. So why are you bringing that up? So Mel says, I'm not saying that y'all are wrong. I'm just wondering what's going on. He thought that Mel knew she was coming. Mel says she didn't know. He says, you see how you said in the past that I just got the one side of the story, and then I spoke to you about it, and you pointed out the fact that there is another side, and how basically after talking to you, we can both agree that there are multiple sides. Martell then jumps into this conversation and wants to know what they're talking about. They're still talking. He still comes in and says again, what are y'all talking about? He gets close to Marceau. He puts his hands on his shoulder. Marceau says, why are you so close to me? He again wants to know what was said. And Marceau said, if you want to know what was said, then you're more than welcome to get it straight out of Miss Rogers' mouth. Why is it that Martell always feels the need to get up in people's face and act like he's about to fight them when he wants to know some information? It's very aggressive. And one day he's going to do that to the wrong person, because the energy that he's putting off will get him punched in the face. I'm sorry, but I just got to say it. He then says, all of y'all are effing Rogers fans, and I hate that. How are they fans when these are the same people who, despite all of the cheating, you getting this girl pregnant, all of the lying, you trying to act like you had all these stories about their significant others and all this other stuff, still stood by him, supporting him? Tisha says, Marceau, did you ask Mel what she did? And he says, no, I'm not getting into that. As he shouldn't. Martell says, did y'all ever ask Melody? Did you ever cheat on Martell? Did you do anything to Martell? Nell says, I told you that I asked her. You want somebody to take sides. He says he doesn't. But the things that he says out of his mouth and what he does implies that he does want somebody to take sides. He says, don't be against me. She says, I love you and I love Mel. It's time for you to hold yourself accountable for your crap. He says, I have, and it's okay, but he hasn't, because he still makes excuses for it. Even what he's going to do later on with this whole Mel cheated on me thing. He said, it's been 3 years. I'm cool with it. I've apologized. He says, I'm not blaming Melody for nothing. I'm talking about you, and I'm talking about Chris, and I'm talking about Marceau. She said that you can hold them accountable. That's what Nell said to him. But I'm a woman first, and I was honest with you. She says, I'm not doing it anymore because if I keep going back and forth with him, I'm going to end up smacking him. And she's walking out while she's saying this. Stormy's following behind her. And she says, and then him and Fletcher will end up fighting. Now, I'm going to be honest. To me, Fletcher should have interjected when all this stuff was going on. But I guess they're filming a show. So he kind of just stood back beside her. But I wouldn't have allowed you to argue with my wife. All the ladies gather around her. Tisha explains what happened and how he feels like everybody's coming for him. Nell says, he says, I wouldn't hold you accountable for cheating. I didn't ask you about your cheating, but he says that you cheated on him too. She says, Mel, did you cheat on him too? Melody leans in and says, the only time I talked to anyone was when I was not with Martell anymore, and I never went back. Now, she said that, but the way that she told the hotel story, she did kind of go back. So I guess there's more than one time. I don't know. I'm a Mel fan, but I'm going to call it like I see it. She then says, next question. Nell says, I asked her on camera, are you happy? And he says, I'm talking about when you keep coming for me, you're hurting me. I don't care about the camera. Mel says that she can't do the victim stuff, and she's right, and she storms off. This was such a back and forth, y'all. If there's something that I leave out and you want to talk about it, put it down below. After some things were said, Nell says, you know what? You are a typical narcissist. He says, I made the mistake in my marriage. So did she. I cheated. She cheated. She cheated. I cheated. She comes out and says, I'm sorry. I'm going to stop you right there. Tell me when I cheated. Who, when, where? He said, the apartment. This is when Mel goes into straight detective mode. She says, in March 2017, I found out that he had been cheating on me for at least 2 years. At that time, then I stayed with him. October, homecoming of A&M 2017, I caught him in the truck with his other baby mama. Okay? She said, after that, I left and got my own apartment in December, moved out, and we did not get back together until April 2018. Boom. He doesn't deny it. Instead, he wants to go back. He says, let's go back. Before Martell cheated, Melody used to go to leave the house for 2 days and say she was going to go to the hotel. Mel comes back out of the kitchen and says, okay, let's talk about that. He says that when things started changing, the sex started changing, I started complaining. I complained for about a year before I stepped out. Mel is in the background laughing at what he's saying while eating, I guess, cereal or something. He says, again, as a man, what can you do? Stormy says, but you did cheat first. You cheated. She says, what have you found out about me? This is Mel. Before I left you, because he just said that he didn't find out anything. So because he didn't find out anything and I was at a hotel, he assumes that I'm doing something, guys. Mel says, yes, I went to the hotel. She says in confessional, actually, that it was something that they even talked about. She said, everybody does what they need to do for their little me time, for their calming period. And that's what she did. So now, because he cheated, he's saying that I cheated when I was doing that. Get out of here. She said her behavior started changing because he was an a-hole and he still won. Nell says, Mel has never asked me to pick sides. You have. He then says, she's up here digging a grave for me and y'all support her. Y'all gonna tell you to pick a side. I guess Mel was digging a grave for him because she took the money away and she left the home and she bought a new home and she started different businesses and closed other businesses. And now he has to count on his own brain. He said Mel tried to sell him to jail and all this other stuff. Tisha then says, Martell has never asked us to pick sides. He said what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And Tisha, in that moment, you should have stuck up for Mel because what he did was wrong. Martell says that she just told you she cheated at the apartment. Stormy said y'all were not together. Stormy says the bottom line is that you should not have cheated and the rest of it doesn't matter. Martell wants Mel to be accountable for what she did while they weren't together because they were still married. People will have varying opinions on this. If they were not together, in my opinion, she owes him nothing. That's just my personal opinion. Should she respect her vows? Yes, she should. But he stepped out on her and he didn't respect it. So does he really deserve all of that? Then Kimmy comes in, as she always does, because she's so very much so male identified. And she says, so once one spouse cheats, it's okay for the other to cheat? And Stormy says, yeah, if they feel like it's done, then it's all fair game. She said, what I heard Mel say is that she moved out because she thought she was done. Mel said, yeah, I was done. I had already talked to 5 attorneys trying to get them papers, and he's shocked by this. She said, do you really think that I moved out for fun? Mel says in confessional, she saw a bunch of attorneys when she thought her marriage was done, and that she did go out on a few dates. Stormy says, I will not say that you should continue to be condemned for your past behavior, but I will say that all of this started because you cheated. She feels like, I feel like you just want to justify your actions first because of what she did next. He said, I thought at the end of the day, no matter what you do, you shouldn't cheat. He wants Mel to be just as culpable as he is. They are both for various reasons. It doesn't matter. As he said, it's been 3 years. So why is this still something you talking about? He then brings up Fletcher and asks Nell if she cheated on him after Fletcher cheated on her. And she says no. And he says, why not? And she said, because I was waiting on him. That's not the same thing as Mel. Mel wasn't waiting on him. Nell says, we were separated for 18 to 24 months. He says, and you didn't sleep with anybody else, huh? But your friend over there was sleeping with somebody after only weeks. He doesn't know whether or not she was sleeping with him. That's an assumption. You can go out with a whole bunch of people, spend time with people, and it doesn't equate to you sleeping with them. Now, if she did, that's her business. I don't understand why he's monitoring the miles on her cookie. I just don't. Nell says it's different circumstances for different people. I agree. Mel says Martell likes to take joy when it seems like things aren't going well for her because he thinks that at some point she'll come back, but she's done. We then have Marceau and Mel in the kitchen, and he did say to Mel that he picked sides when Mel was being evil, which was in the beginning. Mel acts like she didn't know what he was talking about, but Mel, you were very much so saying certain things to Tisha about her husband that you heard from your husband. And we're not going to act like that wasn't a thing. She said, since we've separated, I have not said anything about y'all. He did to me what he's doing right over there now, which is put batteries in people's backs. Saying that basically that he told her stuff and she ran with it. Like I told you in there, I did not know that Keke was here, and I did not know that Nell had talked to her. We then see them talking. He says, I think you should tell Tisha that because Tisha was hurt by that. Mel then talks to Tisha, lets her know that she didn't know Keke was coming. She says, I don't want you to think that I was a part of that. I wouldn't have done that to you, especially if I knew that you definitely did not want her to come. Tisha says, thank you for telling me that because I felt like it would have been a slap in the face. They hug and they both want to remain in this place where they're at now, which is that they're cordial and things aren't escalating. After all that going back and forth, they go horseback riding. Keke is at the horseback riding, according to the Fletchers, because Martell derailed the situation with all his foolishness. Keke did not ride in the Benz vehicle with the rest of them, but she's there. They find out that not only are they going horseback riding, but they're going to do therapy. Martell is really out there with his whole chest out, looking like he's showing cleavage. Kimmy is very nervous about getting on the horse, so she's talking with Dr. Dilworth instead of getting on the horse. The doctor says that no one that comes to her is a coincidence. They're all divine appointments. Courtney is being assigned to Twisted because he needs a horse that can handle his girth. They eat dinner. Later on, we see them at the campfire talking with the doctor. As soon as they all sit down, the therapist feels attention. She let them know she wants them to understand what's the energy that she's feeling. Nell starts by talking about Keke coming and how it took a lot for her to say yes. She's asked by the therapist, Keke is, do you think, or did you think of how you being here would impact your cousin and her husband? And Keke didn't answer the question. Keke says, I did what I was supposed to do. I came and I gave a sincere apology. I can't control how other people take it or what they do after. She says, we can move our separate ways and occupy the same space and not even see each other. I'm okay with that. The problem with Keke is her approach. She doesn't come from a standpoint where she remains like sincere. Well, let me not say sincere. Humble, level-headed. As soon as it doesn't go the way that she wants it to go, she's up here. And that's not going to get you what it is that you want. It's a lot of unnecessary energy being directed that way because they didn't truly accept her apology. Stormy then interjects and says, I feel like since Keke has been here, she's had great energy. It's kind of hard when you show up correct and the past keeps getting thrown at you. Whether they agree with it or not, the drink was not thrown on them. It was thrown on Tisha. Tisha has every right to respond the way that she wants to. And this is coming from someone who gets very irritated by the things that Tisha does. But they weren't assaulted by their cousin. She was. Stormy says, let's actually try and move forward and let the conversations happen between the cousins that they probably need to have. She said the energy did shift, but we keep Keke, and we just need to try to recenter. Marceau says, like Stormy, I want to leave the door open because of love. I want us to be the best that we can be, but personally, I feel like it's not up to them. It's not up to the group. He says that there could be some healing in that relationship, but he knows 1,000% at this time it's not wanted right now, which that's fair. Marceau then talks about the growth that he's seen and how proud he is of the whole group, especially Tisha and Mel, for how they handle things and how they've been communicating in this moment. He brought up how in the past that whole situation with Mel and Tisha would have turned into something else. And this time it wasn't. Both people were receptive of one another, and Tisha even forgave quickly. The doctor asked, what helped you all get to this point where you're able to communicate effectively and not have it blow up? And Tisha said she really got tired of holding on to it, and she just didn't like fighting anymore. They used to have great times together, and they're both at a point where they're just tired of it. Nell says that what she hears is it's time. Marceau said, when Mel and all these M's, first broke up, everybody was trying to get them back together. The whole group was trying to get them back together. And what they didn't realize is that they needed the time. They needed the time apart because what they had could have been an abusive situation, an abusive relationship with them. And he sees that in his wife and her cousin. And he feels like at this moment, God is saying to let go. And Tisha said, yes, God said, let go. So Tisha is done. The doctor talks about the group and how important they are and what they're doing. She says it's important that you guys work on your individual healing and there's work to be done. Keke says that she apologizes, is what she said in confessional, for what she did, but she's not sorry for it. And that's why your cousin ain't rocking with you. And I don't blame her. You all, let me know your thoughts down below. Something I didn't mention, feel free to put it in the comment section and I will respond. Until next time.